When I was a boy, the summers were long in the way time can be when you do not yet understand its limits. My parents' house stood on the edge of the marsh, its wood bleached pale from salt wind, its roof ticking softly under the sun. Afternoons smelled of warm grass, brackish water, and the faint perfume of my mother's lavender pressing itself into the curtains. I remember the hum of flies outside, the hush of her voice upstairs. There was a small room on the second floor, narrow and rarely used. My father called it the sewing room, though no one had sewn there for years. The window faced the marsh, where the water turned black at dusk. I would sit in the wicker chair and watch the tide creep in, slower than my blinking. Sometimes, when the light went gold, I'd hear the boards in the wall shift, as though the house were breathing with me. It was my mother who first told me not to go into that room after sundown. She never explained why, only that certain spaces belonged to certain hours. "Leave it to the night," she'd say, smoothing my hair, the way you might soothe a child frightened of a dream. I obeyed for a while. One late August evening, when the air was thick and restless, I went in anyway. The curtains hung perfectly still, despite the window being open. In that stalled air, I heard a slow tapping from inside the wall. Not on the wall, but within it, where no person could stand. I pressed my ear against the plaster, and the sound stopped. As I backed away, I caught sight of something in the glass. My reflection, yes, but not matching me. It blinked just a fraction after I did. A delay so small, I might have doubted it. After that, I found reasons to visit the sewing room, even when I shouldn't. Each time, the air felt denser, and there was that faint tapping, irregular and patient, as though counting something. I began to notice other things. Photographs crooked by morning, though I had straightened them the night before. The wicker chair turned slightly toward the wall, as if listening. I told myself it was only the house settling, only the wind coming off the marsh. Years passed. We moved away. My parents grew old in another house, far from the tide. When my mother died, I returned alone to clear the old place, a man already greying at the temples. The marsh remained unchanged, still black at dusk. Windows stuck in their frames. The boards gave gently under my step, welcoming in their tired way. I saved the sewing room for last. Dust lay thick in the corners, but the air felt no heavier than I remembered. I opened the window to let the smell of salt and grass inside. And then, without willing it, I turned toward the far wall, the one with the slow heartbeat buried behind it. The plaster had cracked in fine lines, as though something beneath had been pressing outward for many years. I reached to trace one of the fissures. The tapping began again, softer than breath, but closer than the plaster itself. It quickened as my hand hovered there. Against every sensible thought, I pressed my palm flat to the wall, and for the briefest moment, something pressed back. Not hard, not threatening, just a touch, cool and deliberate, like the weight of a long-forgotten hand taking mine. I stayed that way until the sun thinned into the marsh grass. The reflection in the window stood very still behind me, waiting to blink. It blinked first, and I knew then why my mother had never entered after sundown. Some rooms are kept for the night, because the night remembers who once sat there, and waits for them to return. Tonight, I think, I will leave the window open. The tide will be coming in.